Politics are reality television. And when they aren't maddening, at least they can be entertaining. And there's nothing more riveting than a confirmation hearing, which is riveting and also boring. But for the moments that I'm going to be sharing today, quite riveting. It should be like a job interview, making sure the candidate has the right qualifications and skill set to hold the most important position of power within the Pentagon. The hearings always end up acting like a public roast, with a bunch of congressmen and women hoping that they will have that one gotcha question that goes viral and gets them all the love on social media. In the case of Pete Hegseth's confirmation hearing for Secretary of Defense, it turned into exactly that. Perfect for us, however, not so perfect for them. I get the privilege of showing you all some of the more juicy moments from the hearing. So welcome to the theater that is our politics. If you are entertained by them as much as I am, make sure to like this video and hit the subscribe button if you want more content just like this. Now, I could have opened this episode with Biden's farewell address, but that sorry sucker is just so boring to listen to that I decided Pete's hearing was much more interesting to share. But in case you missed it, Biden's only viral moment from that was when he warned the American people about the rise of an oligarchy in our nation. The fascist claim against Trump, I guess, didn't work because it didn't get him reelected, so he thought he should go out swinging and give Trump and his team a new title. We just have to watch a little bit of this because I saw this late last night because on X, it just said oligarchy trending. I was like, what now? Good grief. Just leave.
That's why my farewell address tonight, I want to warn the country of some things that give me great concern. This is a dangerous concentration, and that's a dangerous concentration of power.
The conservation of
few ultra-wealthy people. And the dangerous consequences if their abuse of power is left unchecked. Today,
the swallow.
an oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that literally threatens our entire democracy.
I don't even think he believes what he's saying. An oligarchy is taking place. It's forming in our society. Sorry, though, my impression of Joe Biden is not good. Maybe, perhaps, if I took acting lessons, I could be good, but I don't.
Our basic rights and freedoms, and a fair shot for everyone to get ahead. We see the consequences all across America, and we've seen it before.
This is obviously rich coming from him. Thankfully, though, the hypocrisy was not lost on people. Someone said he just gave the Medal of Freedom to George Soros. Sit down. Exactly. Wasn't a problem when they were on his side. Gaslighter in chief. Yeah, the billionaires are switching sides a bit at the moment. But enough with that retirement speech. Pull out your popcorn, folks, because we are back to Pete. And things started off going very, very well for him. Here is his walkout. It's like a sporting event. All the vets. USA! 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 The room was swarmed with elite special forces, which I thought was very cool. Here's a photo of that. All the bros out there. Heck yeah. All ages, all there to support Pete. That's pretty cool. The American flag tie is a nice touch. And here's how his opening statement started.
I want to thank the former senator from Minnesota, Norm Coleman, for his mentorship and friendship in this process. And the incoming National Security Advisor, Congressman, and more importantly for our purposes, Colonel Mike Waltz for his powerful words. I'm grateful to them both. Thank you to my incredible wife, Jennifer, who has changed my life and been with me throughout this entire process. I love you, sweetheart, and I thank God for you. And as Jenny and I pray together every morning, all glory, regardless of the outcome, belongs to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. His grace and mercy abounds each day. May his will be done.
Heck yeah, Pete. Great start in my book. Now, he very quickly made it clear that he was not the predictable pick for a position like this. And it's that reason, and it's the same reason why Trump and many patriotic Americans want to give him a shot at the job.
Now, it is true and has been acknowledged that I don't have a similar biography to defense secretaries of the last 30 years. But as President Trump also told me, we've repeatedly placed people atop the Pentagon with supposedly the right credentials, whether they are retired generals, academics, or defense contractor executives. And where has it gotten us? He believes, and I humbly agree, that it's time to give someone with dust on his boots the helm. A change agent, someone with no vested interest in certain companies or specific programs or approved narratives. My only special interest is the warfighter. deterring wars, and if called upon, winning wars by ensuring our warriors never enter a fair fight. We let them win, and we bring them home. Like many of my generation, I've been there. I've led troops in combat. I've been on patrol for days. I've pulled a trigger downrange, heard bullets whiz by, flex-cuffed insurgents, called in close air support, led medevacs, dodged IEDs, pulled out dead bodies, and knelt before a battlefield cross. This is not academic for me. This is my life. I led then, and I will lead now.
One commenter said, some are scared of him, which isn't a bad thing. I'm not afraid of that. I want some of the establishment to fear someone in a position like this. Shake things up. Someone else said, yeah, the people over at Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, General Dynamics, etc. The defense contractors. The big money. We need to talk about like BlackRock and the other ones too, because they're all involved, but I won't get into that today. Someone else said, he doesn't sound anything like a politician. He sounds like an American. Isn't it beautiful? It is beautiful. It is like a breath of fresh air. Having someone in that position who doesn't have a special interest in sending our young men and women to die in foreign wars is a very calming idea. Being a fighter himself, he has seen the horrors firsthand, and he says that that experience will change the way that he looks after our troops. And with a military that is currently facing a hefty recruitment and retainment problem, this is the kind of energy that could be what we need to revitalize our fighting force. The remaining 10 minutes of his opening statement were interrupted multiple times by hecklers, but this one part in particular stood out to me.
Security force will remove members.
That was just a heckler that I just stumbled upon right there, but that just kept happening. And it's really funny because we're talking about security and everything in this, and then it's just an unsecure behind him, people just yelling. Like, the irony is not lost.
We can no longer count on reputational deterrence. We need real deterrence.
That's a good line.
The Department of Defense under Donald Trump will achieve peace through strength. And in pursuing these America First national security goals will remain patriotically apolitical and stridently constitutional. Unlike the current administration, politics should play no part in military matters. We are not Republicans. We are not Democrats. We are American warriors. Our standards will be high and they will be equal, not equitable. That's a very different word. We need to make sure every warrior is fully qualified on their assigned weapon system, every pilot's fully qualified and current on the aircraft they are flying, and every general or flag officer is selected for leadership or promotion purely based on performance, readiness, and merit.
Should that be controversial? And while he was trying to remind everyone that the military shouldn't be political, that is just about the one thing that every one of his job interviewers wanted to talk about. Politics. But they didn't want to talk with him. It was hours of people talking at him with their prepared speeches. I'll just preface this clip because so many of these are clips, again, from like a day's worth of testimony and cross-examination, but this is on the latter half of her rant that went on for several minutes, but I'm going to spare you that.
As you said in your statement, do you agree anybody should be able to serve in the military if they meet the standards?
Senator, as the president has stated, I don't disagree with the overturn of Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
Great, because I don't want you thinking, can't serve if you're a mom, can't serve if you're LGBTQ, and then last, can't serve if you're a leftist. The statements you said about people who have views differently than you, that we're the enemy, are you saying that 50% of the DOD, if they hold liberal views or leftist views or are Democrats, are not welcome in the military? Are you saying that?
Senator, I volunteered to deploy to Afghanistan under Democrat President Barack Obama. I also volunteered to guard the inauguration of Joe Biden, but was denied the opportunity to serve because I was identified as an extremist by my own unit for a Christian tattoo.
Which I'll get to the tattoo thing in a second, but someone commented under that video and said, Kristen Gillibrand had no points, she just yelled loudly. That is the moral of a lot of these cross-examinations. They were just yelling about their own grievances, and Pete was sitting there like, for hours. Another senator was screaming at him for his history with accounting in his businesses and claiming that he didn't have enough accounting history or experience to do the job of Secretary of Defense, which is hilarious to me because he was saying, I will hire the right people for that. which is what he should do and what you can do with Tax Network USA. You know what drives me crazier than these senators is the amount of IRS agents that are just ramping up in our country. Didn't Biden just hire tens of thousands of them? I thought it was like 80,000 new IRS agents.
86,000 IRS agents or something.
See, that's terrifying. So listen, if you're dealing with back taxes or haven't filed returns yet, don't sit around waiting for that dreaded IRS letter. The right move is to get ahead of all the tax worry. And whatever you do, don't try facing the IRS alone. That's where Tax Network USA comes in, and let me tell you why they're different from other tax resolution companies. First of all, they've built this incredible relationship with the IRS. Even better, they have this preferred direct line to the IRS. Why does that matter? Because they know exactly which agents to work with, and more importantly, which ones to steer clear of. And here's what really blows me away. They have these genius strategies to settle your tax problems quickly and in your favor. Whether you're looking at $10,000 or hundreds of thousands of dollars in tax debt, their attorneys and negotiators have been there and have done that. In fact, they've resolved over $1 billion in tax debt. You can call and talk with one of their strategists completely free. It's time to stop looking over your shoulder and finally put these IRS troubles behind you. Call 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/Conrad. That's tnusa.com/Conrad today. So no more worrying about those pesky IRS agents. What we should be worrying about, though, is our senators. They're crazy. Regarding his tattoo, there was actually a whole line of questioning because people were calling him a racist and an extremist and all of the names under the sun. Thankfully, though, one senator gave him a moment to dispel those claims.
Can you elaborate just a little bit on what is this very offensive, extremist, racist tattoo that you have?
It's a tattoo I have right here, Senator. It's called the Jerusalem Cross. It's a historic Christian symbol. In fact, interestingly, recently I attended briefly the memorial ceremony of former President Jimmy Carter on the floor of our National Cathedral. On the front page of his program was the very same Jerusalem Cross. It is a Christian religious symbol. And when the events happened before preceding the Biden inauguration, I was a part of the mobilization to defend that inauguration as someone who'd been a proud supporter of Donald Trump, but also a member of the military, had orders to come to Washington, D.C. to guard that inauguration. And at the last minute, those orders were revoked. I'd never had orders revoked before. I'd been on orders to a lot of places to do a lot of difficult and dangerous things. They were revoked, and I was not told why. Later, when I wrote my book, I was able to get information that was because I had been identified. Someone who'd served in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Guantanamo Bay, holding a riot shield outside the White House. I'd been identified as an extremist, as someone unworthy of guarding the inauguration of an incoming American president. And if that's happening to me, Senator, how many other men and women, how many other patriots, how many other people of conscience? We haven't even talked about COVID and the tens of thousands of service members who were kicked out because of an experimental vaccine. In President Trump's Defense Department, they will be apologized to, they will be reinstituted with pay and rank. Things like focusing on extremism, Senator, have created a climate inside our ranks that feel political when it hasn't ever been political. Those are the types of things that are going to change. And Senator Sullivan, you mentioned that study. After a whole study was held, extremism working group study, 100 extremists were identified in the ranks of 3 million. And most of those were gang-related.
It's sad to hear him be emotional about the fact that he couldn't even defend his president and the White House because of something like that. Having served, having committed his life to this country, only to be told something like that. I mean, oh, it's so frustrating to me. Here is that program from Jimmy Carter's funeral, and it is the exact same symbol that Hegseth has on his chest. And then there it is in the National Cathedral on the ground. I mean, like, you can't make it up. Like, it's in DC. It's accepted. It's okay. They found a way. They found something to try to call him a racist, or not even a racist. What was this one? I think this was an extremist, an alt-right,
yeah.
A Christian. Also, Michael Knowles debated some chick on this particular, the origins of this, which was very funny to watch.
The phrase, however, was uttered by crusaders as they were slaughtering Jews and Muslims.
And you can't have a good confirmation hearing without Elizabeth Warren. So here's just a quick moment from her. Again, I'm saving you all many, many minutes of this back and forth because I did watch them, but just here's the moment that went viral.
But the question I have for you on this is, will you put your money where your mouth is? and agree that when you leave this job, you will not work for the defense industry for 10 years?
Senator, it's not even a question I've thought about because
You can
it's
think
not
about it
one
right
that,
now.
It's not one, my motivation for this job
I understand
has never
that. I
been
just
about
need
what
a
could
yes or no
conceivably
here.
come next.
Time is short. I just need a yes or no.
I would consult with the president about what the policy should be
In
at the Defense
other
Department.
words, you're quite sure that every general who serves should not go directly into the defense industry for 10 years, but you're not willing to make that same pledge?
I'm not a general, Senator.
What are you?
An idiot sandwich.
If Warren or any of, especially the women, were making good points, their delivery came off so obnoxious that people were tuning out anything they were saying that had actually substance. And that was infuriating to watch because every time I'm like, uh-oh, Pete's gonna have to buckle up for this. I'm like, this may actually be a good question. They were like, ah, and then you lost it. And then Pete's in there being like, Pete's just gonna laugh at that and have that response. Like they're setting themselves up for failure, which I don't mind, but I hate seeing a good point go to waste.
Yes, our veterans organizations that will help our veterans get every damn thing that they deserve because they signed on the dotted line.
They're now lost in the memes. They didn't have to be, but they chose this path, and it did not go well for the senators. One person on X said, ask question, cut him off before he can respond, tell him what his response is, this is garbage. This was how it went. And here was Joni Ernst jumping into the debate about women in combat, which Pete had talked at length about, and there was a lot of debate about that. Ernst had also served in the military.
As Secretary of Defense, will you support women continuing to have the opportunity to serve in combat roles?
Senator, first of all, thank you for your service, as we discussed extensively as well.
It's my privilege.
And my answer is yes, exactly the way that you caveated it. Yes, women will have access to ground combat roles, given the standards remain high, and we'll have a review to ensure the standards have not been eroded in any one of these cases. That'll be part of one of the first things we do at the Pentagon is reviewing that in a gender-neutral way, the standards, ensuring readiness and meritocracy is front and center. But absolutely, it would be the privilege of a lifetime to, if confirmed, to be the Secretary of Defense for all men and women in uniform who fight so heroic. They have so many other options. They decide to put their right hand up for our country, and it would be an honor to have a chance to lead them.
She actually made again, she made a good point, but she's teeing him up to allow him to speak, which is the way that it should be. And also, a lot of these people had meetings with Pete beforehand where they had these conversations, but a lot of the Dems, either he didn't want to meet with them or they didn't want to meet with him. And so those conversations happened for all of us to watch instead of a private meeting. The conversation regarding Pete's comments about women in combat honestly deserves its complete own episode. There was a lot there to unpack. My sister served in the military, and so I could have her on here to just chat about it because she has some very interesting takes. But here are a couple comments of women on X. One woman said, I'm a veteran and female. I agree with Pete 1000%. Women who can't pass the same standards as men shouldn't fill the role. By the way, I was in military intelligence and wouldn't accept a low IQ individual in my field either, simply because they wanted to be in it. That should be common sense, especially in a military setting. Someone else said, female here, Pete Hegseth is spot on. Men and women are built differently. It doesn't mean one's better, just different. Funny how the same crowd pushing for women in these roles also thinks it's fair for guys to dominate women's sports. Make it make sense. And again, a whole debate worth having here. I would be very interested to hear what other female service members have to say about this particular topic. Again, I think it's worth a whole episode to dive into what was being said and then how he responded to that. But I will save that one for another day. So many of the senators, especially Gillibrand and Warren, used up their time speaking at him rather than asking questions. The power, though, in a question is keeping it short and letting the silence and the need to fill it on the interviewee. Clearly, none of them are experts at cross-examination, but again, they are great at hearing themselves talk. If you're spending the whole time talking, though, then it seems like you are trying to make a scene without effectively describing your particular issues with Pete, hence the reason for the meeting, which is why I hate seeing that, because it feels like a waste of people's time. One of the most repulsive moments was when Senator Tim Kaine attempted to paint Pete as a wife beater, which was wild.
Did you ever engage in any acts of physical violence against any of your wives?
Senator, absolutely not.
But you would agree with me that if someone had committed physical violence against a spouse, that would be disqualifying to serve as Secretary of Defense, correct?
Senator, absolutely not have I ever done that.
You would agree that that would be a disqualifying offense, would you not?
Senator, you're talking about a hypothetical.
I don't think it's a hypothetical. Violence against spouses occurs every day. And if you as a leader are not capable of saying that physical violence against a spouse should be a disqualifying fact for being secretary of the most powerful nation in the world, you're demonstrating an astonishing lack of judgment.
In a lot of these situations, when people are asking just asinine questions, I always want the person who's being asked the question to just shut them up, to be like, no, you're so dumb. What are you talking about? Obviously, they have more decorum and he doesn't really answer like that, which is frustrating to me. But nonetheless, that kind of questioning is disgusting and repulsive. And to Pete's point, it doesn't make sense why he's even asking the question, which is, I think, why he's not even really giving him a response. Someone on X pointed out the hypocrisy of this particular man also asking this question, and they said, Tim Kaine has a lot to say about Pete Hegseth's conduct during his marriage. Here's Tim Kaine campaigning with Doug Emhoff, who, while married, impregnated his nanny and forced her to get an abortion. And also, isn't Doug accused of slapping a woman? His partner? Tim, you should be interviewing your bestie there, bud. Another commenter said, this is all theater. If this was behind closed doors and off camera, it would be a quick meeting and Pete would easily pass. Exactly. It all feels fake and unnecessary. Hence the reason we all call it political theater. Now, thankfully, though, one senator did spend some time to see if the interviewee actually did know a thing or two about his job.
Pete, I'm actually going to ask you questions because I want to hear your answer. How many genders are there? Tough one.
Senator, there are 2 genders.
I know that well. I'm a she-he, so I'm on board.
He's not a biologist, but he was still able to answer that question.
What is the diameter of the rifle round fired out of an M4A1 rifle?
That's a 5.56.
How many push-ups can you do?
I did 5 sets of 47 this morning.
Dang.
What do you think are most important strategic bases in the Pacific?
In the Pacific, Guam is pretty strategically significant.
How many rounds of 5.56 can you fit into the magazine of an M4 rifle?
Depends on the magazine, but standard issue is 30, Senator.
And what size round does the M9 Beretta standard issue sidearm for the military fire?
A 9mm, Senator.
So right there, you're representing qualifications that show you understand what the warfighter deals with every single day on the battlefield. You understand what happens on the front line, where our troops will be. And what happens, unfortunately, in this country is decisions made in rooms like this, bad decisions, end up in dead 17, 18, 19-year-old Americans. And those Americans rarely come from families that sit in rooms like this. They come from lower, middle-income families who sometimes the militaries are on the way out. And they join because maybe they want to go to college. Maybe they have no other choice. Maybe they love this country. But for whatever reason, they joined and they sat on the dotted line. And when people like us screw up, they don't come home. And that's the one thing that I care about. As you remember when I shut the door, when you came with your entourage, Senator Coleman, I've known for a long time, and you and I sat together and asked you one question. You remember what that question was?
Are you going to have the backs of the warfighters?
Exactly. What is going to be your number one priority? And I don't care, frankly, what all these letters and articles say. I've been a part of a smear campaign too, I get it. I care that you're going to have one thing in mind when you sit in that chair in that 5-sided building. And you told me what that was.
Earlier, I called this process a public roast because in a lot of ways, it really is. The confirmation hearing process is brutal. Nothing in your past is seen as off limits. For Hegseth, they brought up past struggles with drinking or his failures in his previous 2 marriages prior to his current one, questioning if he has the ability to serve in this important role. He humbly denounced his past mistakes to a room full of people who, I can only imagine, have never drank too much or cheated on a spouse. Right? Senators, politicians. Now, in no way does that excuse his past behaviors, but I frankly don't expect any of these elected leaders to be pristine, perfect people, though I wish I could. They are all people, after all. Thankfully, though, the one that we should follow for peace and a moral compass is not of human origin. Thank you, Jesus. Now, what I do expect is that any elected leader will be chosen on their merit and their ability to execute their job well. Pete is a decorated combat vet with an Ivy League education and a resume filled with decades of working closely with veterans. Right now, our country feels like a reality show on the world stage. And as Hegseth brought up earlier, we should not be counting on our reputational deterrence as a factor for our country's safety. Our reputation is simply not what it used to be. But it is something that is not lost forever. We have the most incredible, badass fighters, and we need the right, strong leadership to guide them. I have hope for what the next 4 years could do to get us back on the right track as a serious leader on the world stage once again. And with a fresh new pick with a track record to back him up, I hope someone like Hegseth can take us back to a position of strength. Thanks so much for watching today's episode. If you want more content like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video if you enjoyed it, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Thanks so much and have a great day.